Can you beat Fallout 4 with only a Keyblade? That's right, it's finally time for a video that I promised y'all way back in the second ever challenge run I did on this channel. And honestly y'all, I'm pretty excited for this one. I've never actually played a melee build in Fallout 4. I tend to stick to pistols when I play the game, so this will be an all new experience for me. The rules this time around are simple. In combat, I'm only allowed to use the Keyblades added in this mod. I'll have a link to the PC version of this mod down in the description, and if you enjoy Fallout Challenge Run content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I get a new video up every month. But that's all for the intro, so let's get on into the run. I started at the save file that I made of the vault exit in my laser musket run. I hadn't fought any of the rad roaches in this save, so I figured it was fair. It really just saved me from having to do all the pre-war and vault stuff again. I named myself Sophia, then changed my look and my special stats. I decided this would be the run when I finally tried out Idiot Savant. I didn't need intelligence for any of the Keyblade upgrades, not that I ended up using any of them anyway, but this was my chance to try out the perk that every other Fallout content creator swears by. I made my way to Sanctuary where I checked the chemistry station to see what I needed to craft a Keyblade. The mod gives you 3 different Keyblades you can craft, but I just want to use the classic Kingdom Key, so I would need gold, steel, and nuclear material. I made my way to Drumlin Diner, failed to persuade Wolfgang, and then ran around as a distraction while Trudy took him down. Then I bought everything I needed to make a Keyblade and made my way back to Sanctuary. Once I had made the Keyblade, I decided to play the rest of the game in third person like I did in the Skyrim video. There was nothing really wrong with the first person view this time around, but I figured I played in third person last time, might as well do it this time too. I made my way to take on the Raiders in Concord, and I think the mod might be just a little bit busted for the early game. The Keyblade does big damage and swings fast, meaning I can cut through these raiders like a hot knife through butter. I was actually one-shotting most of them. The only ones that were really able to put up a fight were the ones using melee weapons, and that's just because they were able to block my swings. I got a little out over my skis when I was trying to fight the Deathclaw. I was trying to use the Deathclaw space program glitch, but I can never get it to work. You see, when fighting a Deathclaw with a melee weapon, if you hit it while in VATS, there's a pretty good chance that it just ascends to the skies and then falls back down and dies. And I don't know if it's a side effect of the mod or if I was just getting very unlucky, but I could never once get it to activate. This caused me to have to run away and heal, and while I was healing, either the Raiders or Preston or some combination of the two were able to take out the Deathclaw. I dealt with the few remaining Raiders and then made my way in to talk to Preston for the last time in this entire run. Now, the Minutemen are the fastest ending in this game, and if I'm being honest, usually my preferred faction, but I really didn't want to have to deal with all those Mirelurks with a melee weapon. Also, I might still be a little bit salty with the Minutemen after they just completely broke in my laser musket run. I made my way to Diamond City, thinking about what faction I was going to side with. I had just ruled out the Minutemen, and the Brotherhood were out of the question because, well, they're the Brotherhood, so that leaves the Institute and the Railroad. I had just sided with the Institute in my laser musket run, and I really didn't like the idea of assaulting the airport with an oversized key, so that leaves the Railroad. I made my way to Diamond City where I talked with Ellie so that I could get the quest marker to Park Street Station. But before going to save Nick, I wanted to get a few more levels and do a few side quests. I was dealing pretty good damage, but I was something of a glass cannon, so I was afraid the Triggermen would tear right through me with their submachine guns. I wanted to be better prepared and get a couple more perks. I did some side quests like getting paint for the wall at Hardware Town and cleaning out Hangman's Alley. Then I helped Paul deal with his wife's lover and went and stopped a Kemp deal, taking all 60 of each Chem for myself. I sold the Mentats along with any other loot I had picked up to get myself the Champion's chest and right arm from Fallon's basement. I held on to the Jet and Psycho because they would help me close the gap on ranged enemies without becoming Swiss cheese. I had also taken a rank in both the Lone Wanderer and Toughness perks after a few level ups, so I figured I was ready as I was ever going to be to go save Nick. Some of the Triggermen put up more of a fight than the Raiders I'd been fighting up until this point, and by that I mean they took 2 hits to take down. The chems I had gotten earlier helped me to close the gap and take them out pretty easily. Even the ones down in the subway tunnels, often the bane of melee builds due to the wide open area, didn't stand a chance. Now, I know modded weapons are notorious for being unbalanced, especially in Fallout 4, but this thing is just straight up overpowered and I am absolutely loving it. I saved Nick and then didn't even give Skinny the time to talk before taking out him, Darla, and the triggermen they brought with them. We made our way out of the tunnels, I sat through the longest loading screen in the game, and I made my way back to Diamond City. I made sure to swing by and get Kellogg's house key before I met up with Nick, and then we made our way to the house. I pushed the big red button under the desk, and Nick called Dogmeat to lead me to Fort Hagen. Except I already know where Fort Hagen is, and Dogmeat takes forever, so I just went my own way. There were some super mutants just outside of Fort Hagen. I didn't even know they could spawn there. Anyway, making my way into Fort Hagen, and I'm still dealing good damage, but I have almost nothing in the way of energy resistance. I do have a plan to help me deal with that later, but for now, I just had to rely on chems and stim packs to get me through to Kellogg. Once I found the cereal man, I took some Psycho, Med-X, and Jet, and then just started swinging my key around. The battle lasted all of a few seconds, and then I was able to grab his brain, make my way out, and then watch the Brotherhood fly in on a blimp. Peaceful intentions, my... Before returning to Nick, I decided to explore around Boston for a bit. I was honestly just having too much fun, and I didn't want to speed through the main story. I went into a high school and found this mascot head on a raider boss. It's arguably worse than my batting helmet, since it offers no energy protection, but come on, just look how silly I look. I stumbled across the Old North Church and decided to head on in and meet the railroad, since I would have to come here later anyway. I fought through the ghouls and guessed their super secret password. It's railroad, by the way. The railroad's password is railroad. Anyway, I met with Desdemona, and then Deacon asked me to come meet him at Slocum's Joe to get something from their old hideout. Side note, does Slocum's Joe sound like a euphemism for something to anyone else? Can't quite figure out what for, but it's definitely a euphemism for something. After climbing the obelisk in the middle of Bunker Hill for reasons that eluded me even while I was doing it, I made my way to meet up with Deacon. Inside the switchboard, I relied on chems to carve my way through the through the synths with ease. Returning to Desdemona, and I picked the name Charmer. You see, it's ironic because I haven't passed a single speech check in this run. I made my way to Bunker Hill to start the next quest for the railroad. I spoke to Old Man Stockton, cleared out the raiders from the meeting spot, and then babysat Dumb and Dumber here until we arrived at our destination. Making my way back to HQ, I picked up some more quests from Carrington, Tinker Tom, and most importantly, Pam. Pam channeled her inner Preston Garvey and sent me to Sunshine Tidings to establish a new settlement, get a new railroad base up and running. I did the bare minimum here to complete the quest. If you want to see me build up settlements, I have a whole series about that going on right now. Next episode in that series should be coming up either next month or the one after that, by the way. Anyway, I returned to Pam, who sent me to secure a cache for the railroad. After reporting a job well done, I unlocked Ballistic Weave. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said I had a plan to mitigate damage. I had put a couple of perks into the first 2 levels of Blacksmith, so I was able to upgrade both a dress and a hat with rank 3 Ballistic Weave. Now I'm stylish, and I have the defensive stats of low-grade power armor. I just went from being a glass cannon to an absolute tank. I decided I had done enough side questing and it was time to continue on with the main quest. I returned to Nick and we headed on to Good Neighbor so I could run through the memories of this part of A Balanced Breakfast. I discovered that if you enter the memory lounger in third person, you're actually still in third person when going through the memories. You just kind of have like a stealth boy effect on you. I don't know, I guess I just always assumed it would force you into first person here. I made my way to the glowing sea, and if there was any doubt about the strength of this build, on the way there, I was able to take down an Alpha Deathclaw without even having to heal. Sure, I took a few chems, but it's still wild seeing a woman in an evening gown beat down an Alpha Deathclaw with an oversized key. After a meeting with Virgil, I made my way to Green Tech to deal with the Courser. The gunners on the way up weren't really much of a challenge. I even channeled my inner slasher villain to freak out these two in particular for some reason. The courser was a little bit more challenging, but only because he was able to use his stim pack to prolong the fight. I saved the runaway synth because, well, railroad playthrough, and made my way to get the courser chip decoded. I built the teleporter and made my way into the Institute. When I met my son, Father, I pretended to be on board while actually working to free some synths with Liam. Back on the surface, and I headed to Cambridge Polymer Labs. I actually did the science project to get out this time. I've never actually done it before. It gives you a pretty decent power armor piece. Too bad I'm not using power armor this run. Might be something to look into when I get around to doing a pain train run. Maybe that should be my 1,000 subscriber video. Next, I was off to reclaim Gabriel from Libertalia. I tried to climb the cable to bypass the raider with the fat man, but I have never been good at balancing in these games. At one point, I thought he had taken himself out, so I started climbing, but he was still very much alive, and an unfortunate quick save put me in an infinite loop of getting blown up until I reloaded an earlier save. Eventually, I just let him run out of ammo by standing on the cord and baiting him into firing at me before I jumped into the water. Turns out he only has 2 mini nukes. Once I was confident that he was out of ammo, I climbed up the ship, reclaimed Gabriel, and made my way to the Railroad HQ before returning to the Institute for my next mission. Up next was the Battle of Bunker Hill. The easiest and fastest way to finish this quest is to just immediately turn on your Courser ally, so that's exactly what I did. I met with Father, who somehow wasn't suspicious of me at all, and made my way to Mass Fusion. We warped to the top of the building and fought the Brotherhood there. I grabbed the keycard for the basement and flung myself off the side of the building multiple times until I finally landed in Good Neighbor to avoid the elevator ride. I grabbed the MacGuffin and then fought the Sentry Bot and the Assaultrons. They really didn't put up too much of a fight. I think I was actually able to somehow hit the Sentry Bot's power source when I hit it in VATS because I did so much damage, more than I thought I should be doing. And just like that, we're basically in the endgame. All that's left before the final 2 missions is to pass a speech check with this random scientist we'll never interact with again, power up a radio, and give a villain monologue to make sure nobody will mourn when the Institute goes up in nuclear smoke. Now it's time to take down the Brotherhood of Steel. I protect the Railroad HQ pretty handedly. Between perks, ballistic weave, chems, and my stockpile of stim packs, there's not much at this point that can take me down. I prove as much as I fight my way to Glory, whose manufacturer warranty runs out right before she shuts down. Those warranties always run out right before you need them. We took the fight to the Brotherhood at the police station, where Deacon became the main character for a little bit while he took down this vertibird with a minigun. After Deacon's hero moment, we boarded our own vertibird. I planted the charges on the Pridwin, and we flew off as the Brotherhood of Steel took their rightful place in the dustbin of history. The only thing left now is to take out the Institute, and if I'm being honest, this is nowhere nearly as difficult as the Brotherhood was. The hardest part was making it past the turrets early on since I had no way to hit them. But we made our way through the Institute, set the place to blow, took Seanbot with us, and pressed the big red button, blowing up the Institute and beating Fallout 4 with only a Keyblade. Thank y'all for watching. This was a very fun run. I'll leave a link to the Nexus Mod page for this mod down in the description if you want to try it out yourself. But that's all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, bye!